Hey, welcome, Vinnie. Good to see you actually, and thanks so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to actually talk about SAP S/4HANA Cloud and how we believe it really helps to empower businesses for tomorrow. My name is Gilg. I'm the Chief Product Officer and President of SAP S/4HANA, and with that responsible for product and development of the solution.
Yeah, and it's
So let's start.
good to see. I've seen you in Orlando. I've seen you in New York. I've seen you on Zoom multiple times. It's kind of surreal how, our virtual and real worlds are mixing. But good to have you again.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. I would love to see you more often in person. I have to say, we still live in a hybrid world, but for now we do this virtual. But I'm sure next year there's opportunity again, at latest at Sapphire. So let's jump right into it. I mean, what we see at SAP, and I don't think that's any surprise here. We are in a very challenging environment as an economy, as a global society. And the challenges we all see is mainly about the disruption that has started already with the pandemic. Now with the inflation, with the war in Ukraine and so on, it becomes even more. We see that also companies really, especially through pandemic, in my mind, have embarked to embrace more and more new business models. They actually had to, right? The other thing, and I think that is something we experience also in our private life, is really the disruption of the supply chain, which doesn't seem to end. So it's amazing the kind of delays. I'm personally waiting for a bike for over 6 months already. So it's so many areas basically where you can feel something is really off. And then finally, and just coming out of COP27, the effects of the climate change. So I think those are really, really big challenges that we face, and also challenges that will not go away in the next couple of years even. I think this is really long term, and companies obviously have to adjust their strategy accordingly. On the one hand side, it's all about agile decision making. I have to be able to decide quickly and actually put this decision into action, and therefore need obviously an IT landscape, an environment that allows me to do that. The same on the process side, being able to adjust processes to new requirements, to new business models that are out there. And again, having an IT solution that supports that. Collaborative partnerships, I believe, are super important, especially when you look into supply networks and how globally connected everything is. And the more visibility you actually get into those networks, the better you can react, the earlier you can see disruption, the earlier you can basically counter react, so to speak. And then finally, it's all about sustainability. If companies make decisions today, in my mind, they have to take the impact on the climate, the impact on sustainability into account.
Jan, congratulations. You didn't mention multi-cloud or Kubernetes even once. So clearly a very executive-driven agenda here, and I'm glad to see SAP talk in those terms.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you very much. I will get down to more product specifics as well, eventually. And we do believe, and this is kind of the high level view of our product strategy overall, and with the mission to enable every enterprise to become intelligent and sustainable. And for us, it's really 3 big building blocks in our portfolio. From the bottom, to start from the bottom, it's really the business technology platform, which has become our default platform, where we put in all the technology assets that we have. In terms of data processing, analytics, AI integration, and also the platform to develop applications ourselves, but also our partners and ecosystem. And then SAP is an application company. So we'll see on the screen layer, our core applications from ERP to spend management, HCM, customer relationship management, and then some cross topics like the business network. I'll elaborate a little bit on that more. Industry cloud, experience management through Qualtrics, or planning. So those go really across the various software categories that we cover. And then on top, and I think that's really critical, I feel that is what SAP stands for and continues to stand for, is really industry-specific end-to-end process, industry know-how, but also business process know-how along very long end-to-end processes, basically. And I believe that's the strength also of our portfolio, to cover a breadth of processes. And frankly, they have changed, and they continue to change. Some people say we don't even have defined yet the best practices of the 21st century. And I think we are on the way of doing this. And I believe SAP is in a very good position actually to help our customers to adjust their processes to really be able then to also compete and be relevant in those times in which we are.
You know, Jan, I got a glimpse of the 21st century processes in the book I've just helped Peter Meyer and Thomas write. So you're right. I mean, it's kind of almost shocking that coming out of so many changes, so many vendors are still talking about what they had in 2017 and 2018, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's like you want to slap them. It's like, guys, wake up.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's also how the narrative has changed in the context of S/4HANA, which is our core ERP solution. At the beginning, you know, in 2015, a lot of customers were like, okay, I'm on ECC, I understand I have to go to S4, let's do this as quickly as possible, let's not change much, just make it technical and quick. And now it's a very different dialogue. After COVID, everybody came out and it's like, okay, I think we gotta look into this more transformational. This has to be business driven. We have to adjust our processes. They just don't cut it anymore. What we have seen now, even throughout the pandemic, and now this becomes much more a business process and business driven transformational conversation actually. And that's why I also believe cloud ERP. It has very different characteristics compared to you know, the typical notion of ERP in the past, or even on-premise ERP, which is sometimes associated really with attributes like, you know, slow and heavy and inflexible and so on. And I believe cloud ERP has very different characteristics, and I go into some more details here, but you see the four I picked, which is networked. It's all about the ecosystem. It's a platform for innovation, and it's all about intelligence. So let me give you a little bit detail on each of them, and I don't want to be too elaborate here, but obviously critical platform for innovation. And I have an example here for you later on, which is all about business model innovation. What we see, for instance, in the area of the subscription economy, outcome-based services, but also sustainability, and how this becomes more and more a dimension of decision-making in companies. Networked, I think, in two directions. One is people collaboration, and that's why we spend a lot of effort on integrating S/4HANA Cloud also into tools like Microsoft Teams, Office, Google Worksheets, and so on, because we do want to kind of pick up the end user where they actually are and where they work, and we want to give them the data they need and also the opportunity to, you know, alter this data, work on this data, even outside of the actual S/4HANA solution. And then the second angle here is company collaboration. So I mentioned that earlier, supply networks. Every company has pretty deep supply chains over multiple tiers. And it's not only suppliers, it's also third-party logistics providers, it's banks, you know, it's all kinds of trading partners and the whole ecosystem. And, you know, giving customers access to them and giving them the opportunity to extend the processes again. And that will play also an important role in supply chain. If you think about scope 3 and how to determine that, you have to go deeper into the supply chain and really track this data. And I believe through our portfolio, the applications that we have, plus the SAP Business Network, we're in a very good position to cover that.
And
yeah,
you're verticalizing more and more, right? Catena X type
yes,
industry specific networks.
Exactly. It's almost like a plumbing, which is horizontal, right? Which is there, a network, and then you have those vertical use cases on top, where you bring then together participants of a specific industry, like automotive in the case of Catena X. We're working on something in the manufacturing space now. And I think that is really something we see more and more, and all the participants in an industry, and that's quite interesting in my mind, often those are competitors, and often they are scared to reveal too much information. But I think this is really turning, where companies say, hey, actually, I have more benefits if I reveal this information than if I keep it closed shop and exclude others from seeing it. So this whole topic of data sharing within specific boundaries and very purpose specific, this is front and center of all those industry network discussions.
One of the customers I interviewed for the book, he said, indirect, no question. We've learned with Ariba and other SAP products. Direct, we're still not very comfortable sharing a lot of information because that is proprietary competitive advantage. So, but the fact that you're doing it at the industry level is ahead of the market. So,
yeah. Yeah, and then maybe two more aspects. Intelligence, I think this is clear. Every tech company is using now artificial intelligence technology, and in our case, we use that to make processes more autonomous, to make them more automated, but also to bring then insights. And from the very beginning, S4 was always about how do I bring insights already in the moment and when transactions are happening within the process work. And that continues then also, and by the way, also extends then into the business network, where you have even access to much more data, as you can imagine. And I believe that will help to drive significant insights, especially when it comes to visibility into supply chains, into demand patterns, and so on. And then finally, on the ecosystem, I think that becomes just super critical for everybody, but also for us, of course. We provide a platform, as I said, for innovation, and then we rely on our ecosystem as well to build differentiating capabilities and for customers then to consume them. And that needs to happen eventually almost like plug and play, that customers have an ability to access certain capabilities, whether that's vertical capabilities or horizontal, and say those are white spaces that are not part of our ERP platform, but they can be easily connected and used through a marketplace and so on. So that's why we really use the business technology platform as an extension platform and a platform for partners to build their applications then on top.
I mean, your ecosystem has just grown so much, between Foundry, Foundry.ai and BTP. I mean, just it almost difficult to keep up with.
Yes, and it's changing a lot. I think we also see in the cloud, it's we still work a lot with the traditional partners, of course, but a lot of partners came that were never considered, or probably themselves they wouldn't have considered SAP as a partner, and that's really interesting. And I think the aspect of openness is super critical for us. No fear of being open. I think in the cloud it's all about openness, and at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everybody. So. Let me talk about one example, because we talked about business model disruption or innovation. We typically see either service-centric businesses or product-centric businesses, and in both areas we see business model innovation. If you look into services, those companies sometimes they start building also products and add products to their services business. And then with products, of course, come things like an installation. You have to support that product. And then eventually you sell it then as a subscription or as a combination. Often you combine a product and a service. And the same for companies that have traditionally produced goods and products. They look into ways how to add more value to that product. Often this comes in the form of installation services, support services, sometimes any kind of services that can surround those products, and again selling it in as a subscription. So this is something that was really hard in former times to reflect in an ERP solution, and especially SAP was built primarily for manufacturing industries with a clear you have an order and then you build something and then you ship it and you invoice it. What we have done now is really in the context of modularizing our solution and making it more flexible to actually come to something like what you see here on the next slide, an ability to deliver end-to-end processes, again, also for those changing business models. And that requires different components or cloud services. And it's not only then S/4HANA Cloud, which is again the foundation or the platform for innovation, but already additional capabilities that come on top, that plug right in, whether that's a CPQ solution for quotation management and pricing, or then subscription billing, which is a module that sits on top of S/4HANA that can actually handle the subscription contract. Then we have a partner solution called Digital Route, which is really doing the usage data collection actually for a specific service. It hands it back to subscription billing to do the rating and the charging. And then eventually the invoicing, payment, and then all the finance and revenue recognition again happens in S/4HANA Cloud. So you can see that really those kind of objects and those kind of processes, they weren't really possible to do in former times in ECC. Those are things that we can do now based on a modular architecture that we have. And you see also how we include partner solutions into that. So at the end of the day, that gives us a lot of, or gives our customers then a lot of agility to work with those integrated solutions.
And Jan, you don't even have the delivery, right? So the whole digital twins and the field service management, I mean, you have all that already, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's so many. That was just one use case, basically. And then, of course, SAP, I think the strength has always been those end-to-end themes. When we talk about synchronized planning or the digital thread, as you mentioned, in IBP, which is our planning solution, we can actually represent a whole digital twin of an entire supplier network. And with that, you can then also start, planning across the network and predicting disruptions and so on. So this is all possible because of the fact that those solutions live in the cloud natively, that they are connected to the network in many areas, and they have access to data in real time, and we are able to process this data also through the underlying platform. So maybe one thing I keep saying that, which is also shows the different nature of ERP, and I think ERP as a term will not go away, even though sometimes it seems a little bit dusted. But all attempts to get rid of it failed so far, and I personally think it is a good term, and it's really strong in the marketplace. But it has been redefined, especially by S/4HANA Cloud. And if you look into the E, which always stands for enterprise, I think you can also, replace that with ecosystem or environment or end user, because those things are really, really important when you look into S/4HANA Cloud. Ecosystem I talked about through the access through the business network, also through the fact that we are offering a lot of APIs that allow us then partners to connect. So that's the whole topic of openness. Environment, because I believe S/4HANA Cloud will play a super critical role when it comes to, carbon accounting, to reporting, of course, but then also to act. When you realize, or when you have a decision to make, can you simulate what it would take actually to build, for instance, a new plant somewhere? What would be the right location? What would be the right set of suppliers? What kind of materials need to be purchased from whom and from where? And so on. All this information lives in SAP S/4HANA, and theoretically you can make those decisions based on sustainability or ESG metrics.
Yeah,
and then
I was part of the team at Gartner that coined the term ERP in '95, the late '90s, and I've been trying to run away from ERP for 30 years. But this slide actually makes me say, maybe I shouldn't be running away. Maybe I should be proud of ERP again.
Yes, no, I agree. And we are actually. I always say we are an ERP company. We are more than an ERP company, but at the heart, we will always be an ERP company. And I think it is a reason to be proud of, because eventually we shaped also that term with the first solutions that we built until today. Last aspect I want to mention here is really on the end user, and I think that's a change as well. Traditionally, we've always, talked about the customer, and SAP didn't really stand for user friendliness, let's say it like that. But user experience, and I have one more slide on that then, is becoming more and more critical, and especially in the cloud world. In my mind, you have to win the hearts and minds of the end user to begin with. It's harder and harder for CIOs to basically push an ERP software into the company if nobody wants it and nobody wants to work with it. So you gotta come up with a very different user experience compared to the past. Also making it more collaborative, as I mentioned, integrated into, for instance, Teams, which we just released. We even made it into Satya's keynote, actually, where he talked about S/4HANA public cloud and how it's integrated with Teams. And then, of course, we are using here also AI to make things as easy as possible. So let me finish with the user experience topic, because I think it is so front and center. It's really about different ways of accessing the solution and not just the expert way. And I think in many people still believe SAP is an expert tool. And yes, to a certain degree, of course, it is an expert tool, and experts will always be needed. But I think we have broadened the potential set of users significantly. We allow access to the mobile phone. There's many use cases where you do only approvals, where you have access to certain data, where you have dashboards. Sometimes even personas in the warehouse, for instance, that use mobile solutions, or in field service management when they maintain equipment that's out there in the field. People are used to using a mobile device only, and that's how they access the system. And in many cases, they probably don't even know that they're accessing an ERP solution in the background. The UI in general, of course, with Fiori, we started the renovation of the user experience. We are now at the next generation. I think it looks very, very modern, very user-friendly, very easy, intuitive to use, which is also a requirement of customers, that they cannot afford to send people, to trainings every time something changes in the system, or even to begin with, so that somebody can even work with it. So we try to really make this more easy. We try to make enablement part of the experience as well, so users can help themselves. We have support built in where users can ask questions, where there's intelligent bots that find solutions. There's also support people then behind that if needed. And then eventually we also have the whole collaborative partnerships with Microsoft and with Google specifically to allow people to even work with data from SAP S/4HANA in the context of Office, in an email, or within Teams. They can trigger actions from there. And all this, of course, with having the right access rights and authorizations. That comes with it, of course. So there's no risk that actually some data get misused, or that people see data they're not supposed to see.
Jan, we could spend a whole hour on the UX, right? How voice is starting to become more important. All the anyways, keep going.
Yeah, so that's already the last slide. Just to again put it in the context of our broader strategy at SAP. I mean, we've talked about the intelligent enterprise very consistently over the last couple of years. It has evolved into a network of intelligent enterprises, as we are also evolving and maturing our network capability. You mentioned industry networks as well. I think it really becomes more and more the fabric in which all our applications connect into. And then eventually the sustainability aspect will become very, very important. It already is. It becomes part of all the solutions that we have. So that we can, for instance, track carbon. And then, of course, we have additional services and products that we build to help companies to become sustainable enterprises as well. And therefore, I believe S/4HANA Cloud remains front and center of this SAP universe, so to speak, and often also at the customer, it is the core solution for their operations. But it has changed in nature as I described it, and it really enables companies and businesses to transform continuously, because it also is clear that this is not a one-time effort. And transformation is something that is continuous, and I believe a platform is needed that is able to adapt and adjust actually in a very agile way. And in my mind, this is only possible with a cloud ERP solution, and that is exactly what we are targeting with SAP S/4HANA Cloud.
Yeah, I'd love for you to come back and do at least 2 more presentations. One is on, obviously S4 is finally getting momentum. So what are the value points you're seeing? I know I've seen presentations from Sam, Masri. It'd be nice for you to come back and talk about the value points you're seeing.
Yes.
The other thing is, obviously the pandemic and the whole energy crisis, vertical applications have become hugely important, right?
Yes.
So S4 has vertical functionality for utilities, reinsurance. So talk about how you're verticalizing and what goes into the core versus goes into industry specific. So come back and talk about that if you don't mind.
Yes, no, I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. This is, I mean, like I said, it's starting to make me proud of ERP again. I didn't.
I hope so. All right. No, thanks so much, Vinnie, for having me. Thank you.